Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Draw Control Podcast. On today's episode, I welcome an incoming junior on the Arizona State women's lacrosse team, Lexi Guerin. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Lexi, and how's everything going?
I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Everything's going good.
That's good to hear, and I'm excited to have you on as well. Obviously, your season ended a few months ago, so how has your off season been going so far, and have you done anything interesting, whether it's lacrosse related or not?
Yeah, season ended in May. I actually live in the Jersey Shore for the summer, so I'm here in Ocean City. Not much interesting. I work at an ice cream shop. I do my training and then just kind of hang out with my family most of the summer.
That sounds awesome. What's is the ice cream shop like? I feel like that seems fun, but I don't know if it's like very hot working there. What's that like?
No, it's on the Ocean City Boardwalk. It's called Core Brothers. They have locations other places. It's really cool. It's custard, so I don't have to do any of the scooping, so it's pretty easy.
Hmm.
It gets really busy, but no, it is. It's a lot of fun. I really like it.
Now, in regards to your training, what are you trying to work on for next season?
So recently my position was kind of more changed to a defensive midfielder rather than just a midfielder. So definitely trying to work on some defense techniques that like in the past I may have done more of like shooting or something like that. So kind of just like switching over. And also a lot of our lifts I've been doing and our conditioning just to try to prepare for getting back and starting up again.
So when you switch from more of an offensive midfielder to a defensive midfielder, what are some of like the adjustments that you have to make when you make that switch?
Um, so I mean, I definitely feel like I was always more defense based. And even during the recruiting process, multiple coaches told me that they saw me more as defensive than offensive. So I feel like it wasn't much of a switch. I just feel like kind of, I almost feel more like, I guess, informed about it because I know what the attacking side is doing, and that helps my defensive side. And Caroline Wakefield, our defense coach, has been great and like super helpful. So it's been pretty easy to adjust fully, um, but it's fun. I like it.
So I want to transition now and talk about the beginning of your career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So from doing research, it says that you're from Wayzata, Minnesota. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
So I actually am not from Minnesota. I moved to Minnesota, I think like 3 or 4 years ago. Um, so it's been kind of recent. So I guess my lacrosse, I started playing in like first grade, kindergarten, when I lived in Pittsburgh. And then my family moved back to Long Island and I played there. And then we moved back to Pittsburgh. And that's when I really started to take things seriously, is when we moved back to Pittsburgh for the second time. Um, and I started playing club lacrosse. And then I actually didn't move to Minnesota until I was a junior in high school.
It's what's the difference between I guess the Pittsburgh lacrosse scene, the Long Island lacrosse scene, and the Minnesota one? Like, is there advantages to each one that sort of makes you a better player? Because at least from the research that I've been doing, I know Long Island has a lot of the top players seem to come from Long Island or the DMV area.
Yeah, definitely. So I was really young when I started playing lacrosse in Long Island. So I was just getting started really. Um, and actually I did not like lacrosse for a really long time. So I prioritized soccer for a really long time. And so lacrosse was always kind of in the back of my head. So I didn't truly get to experience like Long Island lacrosse. My sisters did. They both played like Elevate, Yellow Jackets, teams like that. But then um, Pittsburgh lacrosse was growing as I was kind of like getting older, I'd say. So when I first started, there was only really like one or two clubs. Now there's so many. And I was lucky enough that I played for a club that really supported me, and I loved my coaches, my coordinators, the owners of the club. They all really helped me, and they like pushed me very hard. And then, like I said, I actually never really played lacrosse in Minnesota, but I did coach there. So I guess Minnesota lacrosse, I would say, is definitely still growing, but you have players coming out of Minnesota. I mean, my roommate and my teammate Grace Lilla, she's grown up from Minnesota and she's there. And then you have girls like Jalen Rosga, who's at Maryland. So I mean, there's definitely a lot of good girls who are coming out of Minnesota. It's just definitely still growing.
Now, how did you sort of get more interested in lacrosse? I know you said you sort of just started playing it just for fun. How did you start getting more serious about it? Was it just something that just naturally happened, or did something sort of lead to that?
So both my sisters play. Um, and so they were both very interested in it, which is why I initially started to try lacrosse and play it. And then I played for this really small team or like soccer team in Long Island that I like loved and wanted to play for forever. Like it was so much fun. And then when we moved to Pittsburgh, um, I actually didn't want to play lacrosse. And then all my friends were playing. So my mom was like, I think you want to play. Like all your friends are going to be at practice. Like, what are you going to do? So finally, I was just like, okay, like, I guess I really don't want to be left out. So I decided to play another year while also playing soccer. And then I ended up not liking my soccer club in Pittsburgh. So I then started to really like lacrosse and started focusing on that, and then quit soccer outside of school. And yeah.
Now, growing up, did you watch lacrosse? And if so, who were some of your favorite players and teams that like you admired?
Um, yeah, I did. I feel like this is everyone's favorite growing up, but I really admired Taylor Cummings. She was really cool. I went to two different high schools, and my first high school had her come out and she did like a clinic with my team. And I thought she was really cool. She was really down to earth. I really enjoyed watching her. I thought she was a great player. And then as I got older, I really loved watching Sam Apuzzo and Dempsey Arsenal. I thought they were really cool, really talented. Same with like Kenzie and everything. Like that whole BC era was really cool to watch, and I really enjoyed that team and what Acacia had done with them.
Now, before college, you played for your high school. Talk about your high school lacrosse experience and what you took away from that.
So like I said, I went to two high schools. I went to one in Pittsburgh, and then I went to boarding school my junior and senior year. Um, I mean, high school lacrosse, I feel like it was a fun experience. Like I was playing with my friends. We were playing against people I knew from my club team. It was like kind of like a small world. So like I felt like every game I was playing against someone I knew. And then that was my freshman and sophomore year. And then unfortunately, my junior year, we didn't have a lacrosse season because of COVID. And same with my senior year, I didn't have a lacrosse season because of COVID. So I guess I really only played 2 years of high school lacrosse. Um, so very non-traditional, but that's how it was, and I loved it, but I definitely enjoy college lacrosse more.
Yeah. Do you have like any good memories from your high school career when you look back on it, even though it was only 2 years?
My freshman year team was really, really good. And so was my sophomore year team. Um, we made it to the Western Pennsylvania championship game. We did end up losing, but it was just really cool to go that far. Um, it was fun. I mean, that's probably my favorite high school lacrosse memory. But like I said, my high school lacrosse was kind of cut short. So
Hmm.
not like I have any crazy memories.
And you also played club lacrosse for the Pittsburgh Premier Lacrosse Club, PPLC. What was that experience like for you playing for that club team?
I played for PPLC since I was in fourth grade. Um, when I joined, they didn't even have a team for my age group, so I played with older girls. And then as more girls started joining, I finally had an age group, but I really loved it. Katrina Silva and Katie Phillips, they started the club. Um, both coached at Robert Morris, and they were great. I thought the club helped me find my connections, helped me develop as a player. I thought they did everything that a club should do. I really enjoyed it. And I think, like I said, it was, in my opinion, but obviously I'm biased, the best club in Pittsburgh. And they also helped both my sisters get recruited to play lacrosse in college. So, um, yeah, I really liked it. And I love PPLC. It was a great fit for me.
Now, how did your high school and club lacrosse experiences help prepare you for college lacrosse with Arizona State?
I think that because you asked the difference between like Pittsburgh and like Long Island and Minnesota lacrosse. Pittsburgh Premier was not scared to put us against teams from Virginia, Long Island, Maryland, like all those places that, like you hear are so good at lacrosse. So we were playing against teams that were really, really good. And some games we'd be close and some games we would lose by a lot. But I felt like that really helped me for college because, you're going to school with girls from all over the country and everyone has a different style of play. And I think PPLC exposed us to different styles of play. Um, so I definitely think that's what helped me the most, I'd say. And also, our coaching staff was experienced. They all played in college, they knew what they were doing. So that was helpful.
Now, talk about your recruiting process with Arizona State and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at.
So because of COVID, my recruiting process was very untraditional, I guess you could say. So obviously in the middle of our recruiting process, they changed the rules to you can't talk until September 1st of your junior year. So then that was exciting when it did become September 1st. But then just a couple months later, they were like dead period for COVID. So it was back to the no talking rule, which was really crazy. Um, and I initially had thought I was going to end up at one school. It didn't work out. And so I kind of felt like I was in the slump and like college lacrosse wasn't going to work out for me. And then, so I was recruited by Tim McCormick, and he had kind of heard through the grapevine of like my dad and his career that I was still looking for a place to go. So I reached out. We set up a call immediately. And then that was when the dead period was over. Sorry, I didn't specify that. But as soon as COVID kind of like slowed down and you were able to like travel a little bit more, my mom and I flew down to ASU and I saw the campus. And I fell in love with it. And then I think like a week later, Tim had offered me and I accepted, and I couldn't be happier. It just ended up being the perfect fit for me, even though like I was a later recruit, but I think in the long run, that was like the best possible thing that could have happened.
Yeah, I think the reason why they switched the rules was obviously because people were committing like before they're in high school. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you can make that sort of big decision at such a young age because you really don't know like what you want as a 14-year-old. And sometimes people don't even know what they want when they're 16 or 17 when the recruiting rules are actually the way they should be, in my opinion. So I'm glad they made that switch. And I think that I would assume that would probably benefit someone like yourself, sort of being older and knowing what you want in a school versus being younger and not really knowing what that whole process is like.
Yeah, looking back, what I wanted when I was in even my freshman year versus what I wanted when I was a junior is completely different. So very happy about the rule change.
Now, as a freshman, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse?
I'd say the pace of my game. Um, College lacrosse is a lot faster than high school, regardless of where you're from. And I don't think I think I was kind of like shocked by it, and like you hear people say that, but it's true, like it's a lot faster. So I think that was my biggest adjustment. And my freshman year I definitely had to adjust and quickly, because you can't just like take your time. You're kind of like thrown into things, so you have to like kind of adjust to it pretty quickly. So I'd say the pace of the game was definitely um it was something I was like I said, I was expecting it, but I don't think I was expecting it that much. So I had to kind of adjust pretty quickly.
Now, during your freshman season, your team made it all the way to the Pac-12 championship game and lost to Stanford. Even though you lost that game, what did your team learn from that experience that you think is going to help you guys moving forward in your collegiate career?
I think we learned a lot from that whole season. I mean, we had a ton of fifth years. We had a 6 year, a ton of seniors. We were an older team. And I think that, speaking as someone who was a freshman, I think the younger girls learned a lot from the older girls. I mean, watching Carly Adams and Emily Glaglev, or like Emily Monroe and like Taylor Pinzone, like all these girls, the way they just like moved like so in sync and like so fluidly, like I think just watching them, I was able to learn a lot from them. And even though we lost that game, like we put up a fight, like we were able to play. And I just think that learning from those girls was probably something I learned. And I mean, not just those four girls, like everyone on that field, everyone on the bench, like I was able to use my teammates to like build my knowledge, build my game. And I think that that whole season, it was really great to have such, I guess, like an age gap, because like it was nice to just, learn from people who were experienced.
Now, what's it like playing in the Pac-12 and just the competition that you face each game? I know it's kind of a newer conference in women's lacrosse, but obviously has a lot of big name schools, and I feel like at some point it'll be considered one of the better conferences to play for women's lacrosse in the next few years, I would assume.
I think it's really cool being a part of the Pac-12. Like you said, it's a newer conference for women's lacrosse, and we're gaining some teams soon, which is exciting. Um, I think it's pretty cool that I can say that I play at Arizona State, which is a huge school. And I think it's pretty cool to say that I play against schools like Southern California, Stanford, stuff like that. Um, my grandpa, I mean, he was a huge college sports fan, like basketball, football, everything. And he used to tell me how cool it was that I was playing. Well, he called it the Pac 8, because back then it was. He used to tell me how cool it was that I was playing in the Pac 12. And he's right. I mean, it is really cool. And I try my best not to take it for granted, but it's something that I think is going to be, like you said, I think the Pac 12 is going to be a powerhouse for women's lacrosse before we know it.
Is USC going to be there next year or no?
I think they're here one more season.
All right. That's gotta, I feel bad because obviously you're playing good teams in the Big Ten, but like that travel schedule must really, really be brutal to deal with just because their football
Yeah,
teams go in the Big Ten pretty much.
basically. Yeah.
But one thing I do love about your game is how you're a draw specialist. I think that's why it's kind of fitting that you're the first guest from ASU on this podcast, hence the name, the Draw Control Pod. So my question is, how do you work on your draws, and what's your strategy when you're in the circle? And how did you sort of become a good draw specialist, not only in high school but also in college? Because that's something that I think a big element that you bring to the team.
Um, so actually, I haven't taken the draw my sophomore year, but freshman year I did a lot.
I saw you
Like
got a
a lot
draw
in
control
practice
against
and stuff.
California in your freshman year.
What'd you say?
I saw that you got a draw control in against California your freshman year.
Yeah, I was on the circle. So my freshman year, we played against Cal. We were up, so we started subbing. I got a draw control on the circle. And then so my freshman year, there was a couple of us who did the draws like pre-practice, post-practice. and we worked a lot. That's with like Zoe Mazer, Bella Ingrayo, Kate Duhigg. And that was like the main, it was like the four of us my freshman year. And we worked on the draw like a lot. Um, and like I said, we did pre-practice stuff with our coach Dorr back then. And then after we would do stuff with Tim. And then my sophomore year, like I said, I got moved to defensive midfielder. And then also I did stop taking the draw, which was a big adjustment to my game because I feel like that that's something that I guess like was always a part of my game. Um, but I mean, I still like love it, and I still like if I am coaching club or high school lacrosse, I still help out with the draw because I know all the techniques and stuff. But yeah.
Now, what would you say is the biggest improvement you've made to your game from your freshman year to now?
Um, I would just say my confidence. I feel like I definitely gained a lot of confidence my sophomore year, because I had a year under my belt. Being a freshman, it's intimidating to come into things and not really know what to expect and stuff. And so I think that was it. I gained, like I said, a lot of confidence. And I think that really helped my game.
How do you work on your confidence? Because obviously it's something that I think confidence is interesting to me because you can lose your confidence in one play, but then it can take a few games for you to gain your confidence back. So how's that? How do you sort of like work on that and sort of try to get more confidence as the season progresses?
I think it took a lot. I don't think it came overnight. Confidence for me is something I've always had to work on, and I think I will always have to work on. So I think like with my like support system and just I have the bestest team ever at ASU. We're really close. I think they're very uplifting, and I think that helped without me even realizing. I think Taryn and Haley and Caroline, I think they've really helped with my confidence. They do a really good job, like I said, boosting us up. And like if I go in their office and I'm like, hey, I need help with this, they're more than happy to just help me. And I think just kind of like being open about things helped me. And it's not something I think I did intentionally. I think it's just I grew more comfortable, I'd say. Because obviously confidence is something that doesn't just happen overnight.
Now, talk about your sophomore season from your perspective and what did you take away from it, both on and off the field?
So I redshirted this past year because I did have surgery. Um, and so I was out for pretty much all of the spring. I had my procedure in February. So right after our first game. But I think that I learned a lot from being a redshirt this year. I mean, I was able to just sit and observe rather than play. So I got to kind of watch I watched our practices every day. I watched our games. And watching my teammates play and watching how my coaches coach, I think you can learn a lot from that. And I think I did learn a lot from that. And I think my biggest takeaway is like kind of just like not like rushing right into things. Like I couldn't rush into things. I couldn't just hop on the field and try something. And I think just actually like listening to what the coaches were saying and like watching other girls do it, I think that's really going to help me. And I think that really did help my game.
How's been the recovery process from your injury or from your surgery?
It was good. It was on my stomach, and so that was a little rough, but it was 6 weeks of just walking. And then obviously like the return to play stage because you can't just throw me back in after 6 weeks. So I think it ended up being around 10 weeks. It was, I mean, obviously rough. Like I'd rather be playing, but I had to stay positive and just look at the right side that I was still learning from three of the best coaches. So
Well, I'm glad to hear that your recovery has been going well, and I wish you a speedy recovery if you're still dealing with some stuff as well. So, but another question I want to ask you is sort of what are your team's goals and expectations for next season, both as a team, but also for you individually getting back on the field?
I think our goals are working more together as a team, I'd say. And also just learning and growing with one another. Um, last season it was all of our coaches' first year. And on top of that, we have a whole new class. So we had to grow and we had to learn, we had to change playing styles, stuff like that. So I think this next year is just going to be really working on working together. Um, and I think we have a lot of goals. I'd say that's probably one of our big ones. And as for myself, I think my goal is to just like the summer, I've been really trying to prepare and come back. And I think it would be just to come back even stronger than when I left.
Now, one question I do want to ask you is how do you balance both academics and lacrosse at such a high level?
Um, I feel like my high school really prepared me for college. I went to a really good boarding school, which I was very fortunate enough for. And I think that I almost had more homework in high school than I did in college for a little bit. I think just really like making sure like we practice in the morning and then I have class um after, just kind of coming home and getting my homework done right away. Trying my best not to procrastinate, but I do all the time. Um, I'd say probably just like having like a schedule for yourself was my biggest thing. Like I have a schedule, like I know I have to be at practice at a certain time. I know I have class at a certain time. So like here's my free time. So kind of doing stuff in there.
Hmm. So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions just to get to know you a little bit more off the field. I'll give you my answers as well to sort of have a good conversation with that.
Okay.
First one is if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Oh gosh. Probably Lily James. She looks nothing like me, but she's in the second Mamma Mia and I love her. So I probably pick her. I think she'd be pretty cool.
I'd probably pick Tom Cruise. I think he makes good movies and he does all these cool stunts, and I would like him to make my life movie seem as entertaining as possible, even though there's probably a lot of boring parts that would be in it.
I like that.
What music do you like to listen to?
I listen to everything. My favorite band of all time is the Beatles. I'm a huge Beatles fan. Um, but I mean, I listen to country, I listen to pop, I listen to like my dad's music. Like, I don't even know. Like, I love everything, I'd say. Like, when I get my like Spotify wrapped at the end of the year, it like all my top five artists are like so random. But
Yeah.
yeah, what did you say?
For me, I'm into everything as well. I can't really listen to one specific genre of music. So I have like a playlist for each genre of music. So whatever mood I'm into, I can just go to that one. And I'm sort of like you. I can listen to Frank Sinatra, then I can go to Morgan Wallen, and then I can go to
Yep.
Drake. Those are like three completely different like types of music to listen to, but I really enjoy all those. I am also a big Beatles fan.
Yeah.
My first concert I ever went to was Paul McCartney. So
Oh,
it was a lot of fun, and yeah, I was actually listening to them last night. The naked version of Let It Be. Just
yeah.
take away some of the orchestra stuff, so you can hear sort of more the instruments and vocals much more clearly, and it was very fun to listen to. I really liked that album a lot.
It's a good one.
Now, what is the most underrated holiday, and what is the most overrated holiday?
Underrated Halloween. I love Halloween. I think people, as they get older, don't think it's as fun just because, like, you're not trick or treating or like you're getting
That's
older.
me.
Yeah, but see, I think Halloween might be like a close second to Christmas for me. And then overrated, I think Thanksgiving. I'm
Oh,
not
that's
a
a
big,
hot take.
I know, I'm not a big Thanksgiving girl. Um, I love my mom's food, my dad's food. Their cooking is awesome, but other than that, I mean, I just think Thanksgiving's a big meal, I guess. I don't know.
I like Thanksgiving because there's no pressure of giving anyone gifts. You can just go eat food and watch football. And I don't think there's a lot of things that are better than that personally. Maybe instead of
Yeah.
watching football, maybe hockey. That's sort of my sport. But um, I think the most underrated is probably like 4th of July. I know it kind of sucked this year because the weather was brutal, but normally it's a very fun holiday and it's super chill. So I really like
Do
that one a
love the
lot.
4th.
And then I would say the most overrated is probably Valentine's Day, just because I don't understand the concept of dedicating a day to do something that you should do every day in a relationship. So
Okay, true.
it just seems to me like it's just a way for people to make more money and they just found a random day to do it. But if you want, obviously you should go out for Valentine's Day, but like you should be doing that all the time more than just that one day. And I feel like people only go out on that one day when they should do it every day, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with both of those.
Now, who has the best style on the team besides yourself?
I wouldn't even put myself up
I
there.
saw some of the hockey jerseys you were wearing. I thought it was super cool. So that's why I think you have the best style on the team.
Um, I think Mina Scott. Mina has, I mean, she dresses well all the time, so I'd have to go with Mina or Katie Valley and I don't have the same style, but Katie does know how to dress herself, so probably those two girls.
Now, what is one item on your bucket list that you would like to do one day?
Oh boy. Um, Probably go skydiving. I had an appointment with my best friend to go skydiving, but it got canceled because it was too windy. So I was like this close. I was in the car to go. But I mean, I would just love to go. I think it'd be so cool and so like such an adrenaline rush. I don't know.
I would say travel for me. I'd like to go to different parts of the US and Europe. I think that would be fun to see. Couldn't do skydiving. I'm a little too scared for that. So I would be staying in the car waiting for someone if that's on someone's bucket list.
Fair, fair.
Last non-lacrosse question is what is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Oh my God. Um, I guess it's not like very like interesting, but like I don't even know. Maybe it's not something I even read or whatever, but like the Barbie and like Oppenheimer movie coming out today, like that's huge, I guess.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. Or that Ariana Grande and her husband are getting divorced.
yeah,
Um, Probably one of those two.
yeah. I honestly don't really care too much about the Ariana Grande story. It's just like whatever.
Yeah.
I would say that I would like to see Oppenheimer, but it's three
Yeah.
hours long, so I don't know if I can handle that. Just because it's a lot of like courtroom stuff, and I don't know. It's hard for me. I will say that I want to go, but 3 hours is a lot for me. Barbie,
Yeah.
I kind of want to see it, but I kind of feel like it's not made for me. So who knows if I'll even go to that. I did see the new Mission Impossible movie, and that was very good.
Okay.
So I recommend people seeing that if they want to look for a movie this summer. My most interesting thing I saw this week was I'll sort of relate it to you as well. Arizona State is joining the NCHC in hockey, and I think that's
Yes.
huge because they're going to play some really good teams like North Dakota, Minnesota, Duluth, and I'm excited to see them join a conference finally. It's been a long time coming, and that new rink looks awesome. And
It's
then
so cool.
also like NHL draft stuff. I thought that was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I guess another cool one is that Arizona State is opening a med school. That's
Oh,
a cool
nice.
one too. So
That's
that
awesome.
wasn't this week, but yeah, yours were way more interesting than mine.
I do have to ask, what was your reaction when your dad shouted out that bar at the Nashville draft?
I I thought it was pretty funny. I mean, it's just very on brand for him to do something like that. And I think he's funny. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of other people found that to be funny.
Yeah.
And I was at work when the draft was going on and I got a text and everyone was like, tell your dad good job. Like that was so funny. And I was like, oh God, what did he do? So I had to like look it up really quickly, but I thought it was hilarious. I mean, I think he's funny. Obviously, he's my dad.
Any good dad jokes?
He's been working really hard lately on not doing dad jokes because he's pretty disappointed that he got sucked into the dad jokes. So he's been working really hard, especially when we go out to eat, not making jokes at the waitress, but we've been giving him a hard time. He's all about dad jokes.
I do have to ask, how do you sort of learn a lot from him since he obviously had a good hockey career? And do you think that helps you in lacrosse a little bit? Because you can at least ask him questions about like, I don't know, I'm just curious about that since you're from an athletic family.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. He was also like he was an all-American lacrosse player in high school. Um, so he helped me a lot with lacrosse growing up. Um, I mean, he eventually chose hockey over lacrosse, but he always knew what he was doing. He was always more than happy to go out in the yard with me, or even just like with like how to talk to coaches, how to approach certain situations, stuff like that. Like I can always call him. I always know what to do. And he's great with stuff like that. And even my siblings, they all play sports in college. Like I think it was just very helpful to have come from an athletic family, especially with my dad. It was very helpful.